Alright, guys. I think I lied about that last one having to do with books. This. I forgot that I still had this one in the lineup of things I wanted to read to you guys. Uh, yeah. This is pretty fucking crazy. Alright. In-depth books, burning books in Tennessee. Texas pushes to keep certain books off shelves. Uh, Tennessee pastor Greg Locke had a church set fire to books like Harry Potter and Twilight. Alright. In November, Greg Abbott told state agencies to develop standards to block books with overtly sexual content in books. Two books removed by school recently were based on LGBTQ characters. One of the books includes a graphic illustration, and others includes depictions of sex. The political fight started when Keller Independent School District Genderqueer, a memoir by Maya Kobabe. Texas State Rep Matt Krause from Fort Worth, who chairs the Texas House's General Investigation Committee, made a 16-page list of roughly 850 book titles he said might make students feel, quote, discomfort. I almost said uncomfortable, whatever. Context. Fears over Texas school teaching critical race theory and other issues related to race and sexuality led to the book bans. The debates on books are not just in Texas, but across the U.S. Parents and libraries have been fighting back in protest. Religion and books. A conservative backlash started in the early 2000s after a Harry Potter book series, which some Christians believe shows a satanic depiction of witchcraft. That fueled a surge of book banning attempts in Texas, according to ACLU data. Wednesday, a live stream from Pastor Greg Locke showed that hands in the air along with the singing of modern worship music. Quote, "We are well aware of what we are stepping into. Bring it all. Stop allowing demonic influences into your home." End quote. Pastor and pro-Trump conspiracy theorist Greg Locke wrote on the Facebook posts that have been removed. After a minute and a half, Pastor Greg Locke walks on stage at a Tennessee service. Quote, "Give him a shout in church," Locke screams. Quote, "Shout to the Lord, he is worthy of our praise." End quote. Creepy. On stage, under a tent, Locke starts to scream, quote, "The devil doesn't win," and the audience yells. Pastor Greg Locke is the founding and lead pastor of Global Vision Bible Church in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. He's known for his support of former President Donald Trump and conservative views and denial that COVID-19 was a true pandemic. He's got every witch and every mason hitting this church, said Pastor Greg Locke. He begins to scream that he's not messing with witchcraft or demons any longer, and what would normally be communion was replaced by burning books like Twilight and Harry Potter. The church invited those who attended to bring items to throw into a giant fire. "We've got it handled. They ain't put out our fire tonight." According to Locke, the local fire department already made a threat to put the fire out. Quote, "The church has the right to burn cultivate materials that they deem are a threat to their religious rights and freedoms." He went on to say that Homeland Security was on the property and he didn't know why. Quote, "If they would get their lazy butts down to the border and participate the way they're supposed to be and protect this nation and leave a church alone by trying to stand up and cast out devils and see people saved, we might turn this nation around." Jeez. So, yeah, we already have these people being pretty mask off with the secure the border, let us hate the gays rhetoric. Anyone who's still listening pretty much knows about this point. It's pretty sad. Alright. After a sermon, the church went and started burning books, t-shirts, and some other items that were considered demonic. On Friday, the video started trending on social media. History of book burning. Well, this isn't fair. Hold on, guys. There's this video that I should be able to show you. Just a moment. Hmm. Damn, it's not loading right now. Well, I am doing this with my tablet after all, so... Well, there was a recent video of... Oh, can I just find it on somewhere else then? Hold on, guys. This is very annoying, actually. Alright. I'm going to the next article, guys. That was kind of embarrassing, thinking that was going to work out. Alright. So, in relation to all this fear mongering over the LGBT community, this has only been a historical pattern, honestly. So, this definitely coincides with everything we're dealing with, honestly. Alright, researchers shares men are too feminine and women too masculine, claims dating back to the 1800s. Since ancient times, people from older generations have lamented what they perceive to be a diminished of character qualities in the youngest generation. In fact, it's such a common phenomenon that scientists have studied and named it, quote, the kids these days effect, and they have found, perhaps unsurprisingly, that the elders who think youngsters are oh so different from how they were when they were young are generally mistaken. But this perpetual hand-wringing over perceived generational changes is not limited to kids versus adults. It manifests in all kinds of ways, including regularly scheduled moral panic over gender roles and norms largely based on gender stereotypes. Gender is not a simple subject. No matter how simplistic certain people try to make it, what we view as masculine or feminine comes from a complex mixture of cultural history, psychology, biology, sociology, and every other lens through which we analyze the world. Additionally, those views of what is masculine and what is feminine can come with judgments and biases, resulting in all kinds of emotions and gut responses when our gender expectations and assumptions are challenged. Paul Ferry, a senior research associate and professor at the University of Calgary, shared a brief history of men today are too feminine and women too masculine on Twitter. The thread contained nothing but clippings showing people's fears about gender shifts and the year the clippings came from. He began with 2020 and 2018, sharing what appeared to be quotes from Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, and Alex Jones, three right-wing influencers who have lamented what they claim is the loss of manly men and masculinity. Alright. Hey, come on. The East knows this. In the West, the steady feminization of our men at the same time that Marxism is being taught to our children is not a coincidence, she added. It is an outright attack bring back manly men, which I guess was Arcana's own quote, to her right wing peer Shapiro, who argued on Monday, quote, anyone who pretends that it is not a referendum on masculinity for men to don floofy dresses is treating you as a full on idiot. Long been promoting conspiracy, and so this is now 2018. Long been promoting conspiracy theories involving government operatives and the New World Order using products to turn male bodies estrogenic. In 2013, Jones argued that juice boxes were feminizing male children, declaring, quote, after you're done drinking your little juice, you're going to go out and have a baby. You're ready to put makeup on. You're ready to wear a short skirt. You're ready to put lipstick on. Yeah, okay. Sure, dude. Alright, 2004. Today's men, particularly young men, are embracing their feminine sides, experts say. They're seeking sleek electronics and the right face cream and an honest manicurist. It's a social evolution, said Candace Corlett of WSL Strategic Retail, a consulting firm in New York. There's even a new name for this category of guy, metrosexual. He's a man who's not afraid of Celine Dion or a little hair gel. Oh my god, this is ridiculous. The way we are? Southerners think men are less manly and that women are less feminine than they used to be, and that both of these things are not good. So says a poll taken by Institute for Research in Social Science. Alright, and that was 1997, obviously, just in case you weren't looking. Alright, hold on. 1984. Are American men wimpier than they are now? Are American men wimpier now than then? Alright, that was a hard sentence to read for a second. Question. I'm an older woman, I believe in equal rights and all that, but Langdon, don't you think all this woman's lib stuff has contributed to the wimping of American men? Am I just imagining it, or is today's men less manly than those I grew up with? A strong woman for a strong man. Okay. 1977. High rises help erode masculinity. Okay. Dunedin NZ Reuter. Living in a high-rise apartment buildings helps make men effeminate. A New York University psychiatrist and professor of environmental studies said here yesterday, quote, a man with no garden to dig out or the opportunity to carry out the masculine activities become passive and effeminate, helping his wife with her chores, said Daniel Kaplan, who also blamed high-rise living for boredom, depression, early deaths, obesity, and vandalism. Tall buildings turn people into urban tumbles, he said in an interview. Okay, that's believable, but not quite. It is true that being enclosed is definitely not helping with fertility issues and depression, that's for sure. Alright, 1965. That men are becoming feminine was the motion debated by Chelsea and Wellesden, young liberals at the College of St. Mark and St. Chelsea last week. The motion was proposed by Annie Verney Chelsea to a room that included young liberals from many branches in inner London. She said that men were increasingly avoiding their responsibilities nowadays and that there were increasingly use of toiletries, long hair, and dandified clothing were obvious signs that men were becoming effete. Alright, yeah. 1950. Here's surprising news. We men are getting feminine. I can't entirely stomach the idea either, but it seems to be true. Some research guys looking into men's, quote, masculine feminine ratios tell us we're losing our masculinity and gaining in femininity. What a discovery! Maybe in 50 years we'll sing soprano. Okay. Alright. 1940. The raw meat diet. At the meeting of the American Medical Association, a speaker maintained that the American people are getting less vigorous, the men more feminine, and the women more masculine because we don't eat raw meat. Ah, yes, of course. 1934. Mothers honored at Lions program. Harlingen, May 12th. Just as in Rome before it fell, women are becoming more masculine and men more feminine, said Rev Flynn Long in a talk to the Lions Club at the Madison Hotel this week when they honored their mothers. He said women imitating men have caused men to becoming less chivalrous and declared that too much feminine influence early in life was having its effect on men. Mothers, sweethearts, and wives were guests at the luncheon. George Herdman sang several appropriate songs, and the press, yeah, okay, not relevant anymore. 1932. Are men becoming feminine and women to blame? Oh yeah, just blame everything on women. Wow, jeez. Men becoming effeminate. New York physician says that they are and cites lilac pajamas and embroiderment bathrobes as proof. Geez, I can hardly read this. By the Associated Press, New York, April 12th. The human, the, what? The human is slipping out of the picture, and men are adopting feminist ways just as rapidly as women are becoming masculine in their attitude on life. Dr. Charles Gray Shaw of New York University said today in a discussion of the social problems evolved because of the emancipation of women. Quote, it is the man in his new femininity who is inclined to domesticity. Modern men marry for the sake of a home with its dog and radio set, while women approach the wedded state with the idea of getting a companion of a lover. Jeez. Man is to blame. Quote, to a great extent, man is to blame for the new order. Dr. Shaw believes, quote, because he has changed his wardrobe. When men began to wear soft hats, silk socks, pearl-colored spats, lilac pajamas, and embroidered bathrobes, the process of feminization gained a good start, he said. Even the safety of razor contributed. Quote, men used to pay the care fare and restaurant check, car fare. I'm such an idiot, damn. Dr. Shaw added, but girls now have their own nickels and dollars hidden away in their handbags. Marriage has gone the same way as money. Woman is taking man's view of that ancient institution. Marriage is becoming more like a way station where the train stops and less like the grand terminal of woman's ambition. Paris women wear mannish clothes. By the Associated Press, Paris 12th. Two little Mongols, more or less tightly screwed over the left eyes of two tall, athletic young women strolling up and down. Jeez. Okay. 1922. Men becoming feminine using much makeup. Long Beach, August 31st. Feminine tendencies in masculine clothing were excoriated in Judge Carl Hawkins' court, while Carlton B. Hilbert, in a part of Funny Little Panty School, stood silently behind a sickly smile. Quote, "Where is your vanity case?" stormed the judge. Quote, "All that is lacking in your makeup are some ruffles on your cuffs and a ribbon in your hair." Gilbert was sporting a pair of corduroy trousers, flaring at the bottom with open work of slashings of bright color, and a little dimity shirt. Almost dimity? Okay. Almost shockingly decollet. He was fined $25 when he admitted executing a suggestive dance at a local dance hall. Okay. Again, that's so hard to read. Oh my god. Alright, 1920s, 1910. Yeah, I get the gist of this, and I bet you guys do as well. I just find that I most probably don't need to read all these. Actually, I do want to read these. Here is another evidence that men are becoming feminine in their habits. Funeral services are being held in a P.E. church in Williamsburg by Dr. Darlington was calling attention to the fact that in the midst of life we are in death. When the widow of the deceased become hysterical, this caused the youngest child, a boy little more than an infant, to faint in a quick succession in different parts of the church. 3 men fainted. A singular feature of the affair was that none of the women present fainted. Oh no. Okay. That's actually kind of funny. Oh, hold on. 1886. Are the sexes changing places? Men becoming feminine in their bearings, and women grow more dashing. It is rather amusing to note just now that the fashionable world displays a tendency decidedly the reverse of that which obtained a few years ago. Once it was proper for men to cultivate a material bearing, they held their heads in the air, took manly strides, held their shoulders back, and were brisk and talkative. The proper thing for girls at that time was the drooping and willowy article. It hadn't much appetite, and it cultivated the habit of drooping its lids over its large blue eyes. All this is very bad form now. Men should droop a little, carry themselves carelessly, and bend their head a trifle forward. If the 500 specimens on view at the horse show are to be taken as examples, their clothes should not fit too snugly. Their trousers must be very wide and always freshly ironed, so that the seams will show just as they do in trousers that have just come from the tailor. Oh, sure. The moral is we should go back to calling people dashing, right? Sounds about right. Alright. Alright. So, these fears, that for hundreds of years we have always been focused on in terms of worrying about the binary working for the economy in any iteration of the economy, like laissez-faire to basically how it is now, I guess, to serfdom times. And even like tribal times, there was different methods of garnering. Uh, uh, um, there's different ways of a resource allocation, um, which includes a trait off a person. Very eugenically in some ways. All right, so that was a bit of a ramble, but yes, this is mostly uh, a deep medicalization issue we have. And in terms of the LGBT and gay trans type of discrimination, I would like a certain YouTuber to explain this. You should also subscribe to this man. Hold on. This video is rather short, so
Transgenocide has become an increasingly common term in discourse surrounding the recent escalation of anti-trans activism and even proposed legislation in the United States this past year, and for good reason. It is not uncommon for major media figures with massive followings to characterize doctors advising trans youth on treatment options as quote-unquote groomers, or to characterize discussions about trans issues in schools as constituting quote-unquote child grooming. Some adults in
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Obviously, just for algorithm's sake, I'll be pausing and commenting throughout.
in this country, apparently a growing number, have a deeply unhealthy fixation on.
Before it was called grooming, in the 2000s at least, it was just deemed like unscientific and silly. There wasn't this much uh, dangerous rhetoric attached to it. So this is how it's amplified. If you've been paying attention, at all, um, you won't really find this much rhetoric in the real world unless you actually bring it up to somebody. All right, sorry.
On the sexuality of children. When you say that out loud, you get people killed. Child grooming is conceptually linked with pedophilia, and to make these comparisons is to cast trans people as a dangerous group of perverted criminals, the persecution of which is entirely appropriate. Such rhetoric, if it gains prevalence, will have the effect of depersoning trans people as a group of citizens to which government and society both have any duty towards. Indeed, it will make it so that trans youth cannot even talk about, much less seek, treatment for the very serious psychological pain that comes with being trans while being embedded in an intensely gender-essentialist society. Trans youth die in horrific numbers already due to not being able to access the care they need. The aforementioned escalation in transphobic rhetoric and policy can be expected to make this worse. If gender was recognized as a protected category under the UN definition of genocide, what is happening to trans people in America today would easily fit the bill in terms of international law. Nonetheless, there are those who are skeptical that genocide is an appropriate term. Sure, state actors and activists want to limit the rights of trans people to access life-saving treatment, to have basic dignity in public space.
So I mean, even though trans people are killing themselves, I think Sunday is like implyingly pointing out that policies putting medical apartheid over trans healthcare, even though it is trans people are killing themselves, this is also something we could alleviate. So because we know that they're killing themselves because of the social stigma and the dysphoria, and even when you heal the dysphoria, there's still the dysphoria of the social stigma. Um, because it's not just an inward outward thing, it's also, I think most people already know. Anyways, the policies knowingly allow trans people to kill themselves. And this is where some of the genocide comes in. It's not all suicide, but this is a, it's an easy out, you know,
Bases by being
an easy out for the policymakers to say this isn't their fault because they're not making them commit suicide. They can play stupid like that.
allowed to use the facilities specified for their gender, and to not be targeted by demonizing language by powerful figures in politics and the media. But they aren't literally trying to eliminate them, surely. They are incorrect. Not only is there an active attempt to eliminate trans people as a category from society, which is in itself an inherently genocidal act in that it seeks the disappearance of trans people from public existence as a group, it is but the latest development in a now very long-running process whose pedigree is part and parcel with the same movement that gave rise to the Holocaust. Because these recent developments are not novel in substance, but are in fact a reversion to an earlier stage of an explicitly genocidal movement that is now so old it is practically coeval with the modern eugenics movement, not only is it appropriate to say that there is a trans-genocide taking place now, as will be demonstrated in this short series of videos, the argument can be made very easily that there has been a trans-genocide going on for at least the past 100 years. As with most such things, our story begins in Germany. In 1866, a German psychiatrist by the name of Richard Kraft Ebing, full name Richard Friedling Joseph.
All right, so Sunday is absolutely 100% correct with what he's about to say here. This isn't even like a critique or anything, but I had recently bought Psychopathia Sexualis, and even though it's not directly all about um, medicalization of trans and gay people, there's a ton of case studies about, other weird things like actual dangerous people. Um, and there are the book is foundational for its time for things we know now, like um, mental diseases alike, like alcoholism and masochism, sadism, etc., like that. Now the book is like when you read it, there are factual things that you will agree with, and then you'll get to like a sentence or a page that is so profoundly what you totally disagree with, and it goes like full stop in a different direction. So um, it's one of those like a lot of eugenicists and geneticists, they got a lot of they got some things right, but uh, their overall rhetoric gets a whole ton of people killed. So I don't know if it's worth it. Um, I mean, I guess in some way it was necessary to have somebody come up with this and do the research and findings and hypothesis, but it never needed to be in such a eugenic light, you know? Alright.
Freiherr Kraft von Festenberg, Alf Frohnberg, Gennett von Ebing, published a landmark study called Psychopathia Sexualis, in which he attempted a vast taxonomy of sexual pathology. Kraft Ebing was one of the first scientists to take an interest in individual sexual impulses. His teleological approach to sex assumed that any form of sexuality that wasn't procreative and heterosexual represented the presence of an acquired or congenital deviation from the appropriate purpose of sex, so that non-procreative attraction and sex was conceptualized as a disease. What is particularly important for his role in the institutional genocide of trans people historically is his notion of inversion. Today, when we talk about homosexuality, what we mean usually is romantic and sexual relations between members of the same sex. Kraft Ebing, however, understood homosexual attraction to be a form of gender variance, i.e., a man who is sexually attracted to other men is by degrees more like a woman, and a woman who is attracted to women is by degrees more like a man. In its most mild form, this presents as merely being attractive to inverts of the opposite sex. So, for example, a mild form of inversion would be a woman who is so masculine as to be attractive to a gay man. And in its most severe form, this presents as the need by a patient to physically alter their bodies to identify with the opposite sex. What is important for our purposes is that as a result of his understanding of homosexuality as a form of gender variance, combined with his assumption that non-procreative and non-heterosexual attraction was pathological, gender variance was identified as a disease in need of a cure. Kraft Ebing's
So, writers like this, along with Havelock Ellis, which I'm jumping the gun a bit in this video, he's going to talk about that in the next part, which he hasn't made yet. I don't know why. Damn it all. um, yeah. Oh, I forgot what I was saying, damn it.
framing of homosexuality and gender variance as a disease had wide-reaching and catastrophic consequences. Under the assumption that what we would later come to refer to as being trans was the expression of a disease with a possible genetic origin, an assumption.
Oh, right. Um, yeah, people will say, like, why are people so obsessed with gender and like obsessed with their identities? There's a whole foundation of medical apartheid, uh, fucking information where people are obsessed with people's gender and identity and self-expression. So people today have no idea why people would be so defensive about who they are and in terms of what their body looks like when medical apartheid is literally right underneath their feet, judging them constantly. All right.
That was taken up by men like the English physician and eugenicist Havelock Ellis, who we will cover in the next episode in this series, who reconfigured Kraft Ebing's account of inversion in naturalistic as opposed to teleological terms. So-called inverts were targeted for genetic extermination by means of forced sterilization. Indeed, the required order of gender-affirming therapies for roughly a century after Kraft.
So whether or not trans people and gay people were sterilized, while Havelock Ellis was saying what he had to say, um, there's this source that I believe I read that said that he didn't think gay people needed to be sterilized because they would already weed themselves out or would choose not to be married or were not allowed to be married or something along those lines. So he didn't directly advocate for them to be destroyed, actually. But yeah, I'll get to that in a sec.
Ebing's death mandated the removal of a patient's reproductive capacity as a matter of course. In other words, trans people were allowed to get gender-affirming surgeries, but regardless of what they wanted out of life and what they wanted to do with their bodies, if they wanted to get gender-affirming surgeries, they had to get the ones that made them unable to have children first. A transparent act of eugenics-motivated genocide. Havelock Ellis's role in the history of the ongoing genocide of trans people will be taken up in the next episode of this series, and when the series is concluded, all will be collated in a single long video. As always, thank you for listening, and take care.
Alright. I just wanted to watch that, guys. See ya.